So a lot of development teams are looking for ways to get their management sold on the idea of adopting Agile. What recommendations would you give to them?
Well, it really is a tough thing. There's so many customers that I talk to now where the big problem is either management buy-in or management said, go do Agile and I expect these kinds of results without really anything in between, right? And the key thing here is two things. One, empowerment, right? The team management needs to trust the fact that the developers are going to do the right things, help them, whether that's enforcing certain methodologies, giving them access to good training, bringing in third-party consultants to help them with their practices. All those things are part of what you have to do to invest in it. The second thing is, in the end, it's not like all of a sudden Agile means that your products are 10 times better or you all of a sudden cut your time to market by 100%. There's many things you have to continue to look at, continue to measure, but trust, having a level of transparency so that you understand what's happening, don't overreact to the fact that now more defects are being found earlier in the cycle as opposed to late in the cycle, which is nothing but good for the teams, right? The team morales will be up, the things that they deliver will be better, right? So, but there has to be that level of trust that this is the right thing to do, the right methodology. Because if you think about it, Agile is really just about, as a management team, you have more information earlier, and which means that you can go help those teams be more successful earlier. You can help them with whether the resource decisions, scoping decisions, or schedule decisions earlier in the process, which means you're now part of the solution as opposed to trying to solve the problem at the very end of the release cycle.
And so it's an interesting way to be thinking about it because a lot of teams think that having someone monitoring that activity is Big Brother, but actually it's a way to gain greater support and
trust.
Right,
Yeah,
absolutely.
no, absolutely. I will say that one of the phenomenons we saw as time progressed is that the people who were fighting the hardest against a movement towards Agile were the ones that were most able to hide themselves in the waterfall approach. So many times those people are pushing back about, I don't want you to see what I'm doing. I don't want you to know how the project is going. Were the people who were giving, if you will, dishonest assessments of what they were doing over the course of a waterfall project.
So I know you've said that IBM has invested a lot in Agile, but has it actually saved money as well?
So there's no question, right? Now, of course, when you talk about savings, many people are looking for a hard dollar savings, and those are tough. But through our Agile development practices, through good portfolio management practices, we've saved about 5 to 7% year over year since 2006. But really the biggest savings are things like time to market. We've improved over 30% from an 18 and a half months for a major release all the way down to just a little over 12 and a half months right now. So some major savings in that form. Our quality levels are great. Between 2006 and 2009, we were at about 20% less number of defects, less number of calls. That means that we have more people that can be doing newer, funner things, which means that they're also happier.
So Mike, how do you feel that your teams have benefited from using Agile practices?
Well, Agile's hot, meaning that it's one of those things where the development team itself, we didn't have to twist any arms in order for them to really adopt the Agile methodologies, adopt the methods, try to turn things around quicker and move forward. You get to use the newest, shiniest tools. It's kind of being cool, if you will, as being a developer. But the biggest benefit is really creating a one team. That's really what Agile's all about, that it's not about the developers doing a great job and everybody else doing a different job. It's about the team acting as a team. So the product managers, the developers, the testers, all understanding in small incremental chunks what needs to be done, what needs to be tested, what needs to be deployed, and really working together as a team. And just that piece of it makes it so that the organization really starts to function much better. Morale's higher, the teams are developing better, their quality levels are higher, which means more people are doing new and innovative products, less people doing maintenance work.
So I imagine it's probably difficult for you to attend the daily scrum meetings of all of the teams that you are managing. So how do you give management visibility into what's happening in the day-to-day activities?
I think it's like any project in the sense that there needs to be a single source of the truth. If you constantly have people who are trying to create a status report or create a PowerPoint presentation or Excel spreadsheet around what their status is, they're actually wasting time, right? What it needs to be is the information flows upwards so that things like build health and team velocity and defect burn down charts are the things that the developers are looking at, but their managers, the managers, myself, what we're looking at is the overall portfolio, and being very transparent about that through our products like Team Concert allows us to have a single source of the truth where all that information is collected. It's just a matter of what type of view you have into that data. So the developers are looking at the things that they care about. I'm looking at the things that I care about. It's actually the exact same piece of data, just different views.
Mike, is Agile right for every development team?
Well, I think it's always a good thing as a manager to know more about what's happening on your teams earlier in the development process. But there are questions of architecture. There are questions of using third-party suppliers to do your work. There are questions of teams that are doing things already extremely well, teams that need hardware and embedded kinds of devices in order to do much of their testing. It's much more difficult for them. I still think that there are practices, whether it be just doing better iterations, checking in code faster, continuous delivery, continuous integration. Those are always good practices for teams. But moving to big A Agile and doing all the practices that many of the Agilistas talk about will be difficult, if not impossible, for some teams.